Your Excellency, President of Namibia and the First Lady, Your Excellency, former President of Nigeria, to all the honourable ministers present here today, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. I mean, honestly, it's a real pleasure for me to be here today. You know, I always enjoy being in Africa. I think you find a real level of enthusiasm and energy that you can't find elsewhere. And I think we saw the energy first thing this morning with the performance that opened the conference. And I think talking about energy, I think sometimes in some parts of the world, you know, we can take energy for granted, and it's only becomes a subject to talk about when there's a problem. But I don't think that's the case here in Africa, where people really value energy. So again, it's a real privilege for me to be here today. I've just recently been appointed as the Senior Vice President for Africa at TotalEnergies. But in my previous role, I was the Managing Director and Country Chair in Nigeria for 4 years. So it's great to be back in Africa again this week. TotalEnergies has been in Africa since the 1920s, and from these first exploration wells, we've been a continuous part of the oil and gas industry. And a significant number of our global teams have spent a lot of time in Africa. And if you travel to our offices in Middle East, Africa, Europe, you can meet our colleagues from Africa, or you can meet our colleagues from elsewhere in the world, really talking fondly about the time they spent in Africa. And we're proud today, to be the largest IOC on the continent. And that's why we're thrilled this week to be a diamond sponsor at Africa Energy Week. But why are we here today? Since the Paris Agreement in 2015, the need to embark on energy transition, has been settled in the will of the international community. And we've seen the emergence of the net zero targets and progress in renewable technologies, particularly in solar farms and offshore wind. Now, we are aligned with the need for this change, and of course we've set an ambitious transformation path to become a multi-energy company, and we're committed to achieving net zero emissions along with society by 2050. And we've also set some very significant interim targets, such as reducing our Scope 1 and 2 emissions by 40% by 2030. Now, Africa represents about 60% of our emissions, so our success or failure will very much depend on what we do here. Now, how are we going to achieve these goals? We need more energy. Africa needs more energy, as we've heard many times this morning. According to the IEA, the demand for oil is going to be about 103 million barrels per day this year, and continuing to rise to 106 million barrels per day by 2028. So it's up to the industry to deliver this. We cannot compromise on access to energy, and so for TotalEnergies, that means producing oil and gas differently, while investing in the new technologies of the energy transition. I say we fully support the transition, and the world will move away from oil and gas, but we must develop their replacements first to avoid any chaos and disruption. So it's essential that we have a just transition for all of our host countries, especially here in Africa, and for all the people that we employ directly and indirectly. So again, how can we go about achieving this? So I mean, as you know in this room, and as was mentioned earlier, oil and gas reserves deplete naturally, 4 or 5% per year. So even, if we're moving towards a more electric world, we still see the need to invest in oil and gas for many years to come to meet this demand. So I'm here today to tell you that TotalEnergies will continue to invest in Africa. We're proud to be a partner in energy projects and operations in many different African nations. And so we're working across Africa, developing and operating a wide range of exciting projects and assets, and some of them have been mentioned this morning already. We've had some very promising discoveries recently in Namibia and also in Nigeria. We have new projects in Angola and Mozambique. We've just taken FID in Uganda and Tanzania. And we continue to invest and produce in Angola, Nigeria, Congo, and Gabon. I think we are the biggest oil and gas producer in Africa, and it's a position that we do intend to keep. Africa represents about 1/5 of our production. And something like, between a quarter and a third of our investments. And also, it's about 1/3 of our exploration budget, and we'll continue to invest in exploration in Africa, including here in South Africa. But as I said, we do need to develop new energies on the continent as well, and we have something like 38 solar projects in African countries that we're actively working on at the moment. And energy is not just about upstream. We also make sure that the energy is available to all of our customers. And we're also very present in the downstream in Africa with service stations in over 40 countries and 4,000 service stations across the continent. So I think with a 17% market share, I think we are the company that does more than anyone else to keep Africans moving. So I hope you will agree this is a strong position, and that with TotalEnergies as its partner of choice, Africa can continue to produce the energy that it requires. I said earlier on about we need to produce oil and gas differently, so what does that mean? That means reducing our emissions. And so we've set some targets within the company to reduce our Scope 1 and 2 emissions by more than 40% by 2030. It means reducing our methane emissions by 80% by 2030. And it means driving down our carbon intensity from about 20 kilograms per BOE to 13 kilograms per BOE by 2028. And also means reducing routine flaring, which we've actually just done this month in Nigeria. So net zero cannot be achieved without carbon offsets. So to compensate for our global footprint, we're also investing in nature-based solutions here in Africa, both in Congo and in Gabon. I say our motto is more energy, less emissions, ever more sustainable. And we must also continue to walk the talk by the way we're pursuing our new projects in Africa. We put safety as a fundamental value in all of our operations. We must show care for the environment with biodiversity care in all of our projects. And we also believe that sustainability means creating joint value with all of our host communities. And I think as well, it's very important that we will have zero tolerance on anything to do with corruption and fraud, and also full respect of human rights everywhere that we operate. So I take this opportunity just to tell you about TotalEnergies transformation and how to show that every step of our strategy has a very strong African component. And we also want to emphasize, we really believe it's for Africans to make the decisions about the development of natural resources on the continent. So I hope that this conference will allow us to have a meaningful conversation about what the future holds for us and about our future partnerships. And all of my colleagues at TotalEnergies and myself are here today and for the week to have some useful and engaging discussions over the course of the conference. Thank you very much. Thank you.